So in 701, there's a great little feature that's kind of hidden under the radar called the variation texture. And it's really powerful. Let me just show you really quickly. If I have it here, I just have a cube, right? And so if I duplicate and let's do a scatter clone and get a bunch of cubes in here, maybe a little more than that. Yeah, let's crank it up. So I got a whole bunch of different cubes in here, right? And it's just one mesh item, but it's all these different polygon islands, you might want to call them. So these little different polygon islands within this one mesh item. And if I just grab these guys and give it a material called cube and go over here to the render tab, and in my shader tree I've got my cube material, right? And if I add a layer under processing, there's something called variation texture. And you can set that variation source to particle, texture particle, which is texture particles are like the little particles you use for texture replicators. If you use texture replicators, you can use those as a source, but you can also use items or mesh parts. And so if you go to mesh part and under color, just start middle clicking some keyframes there, I can add some colors. And you'll notice what's happening is, let me just bring up the gradient here, is MODO's looking around and it's seeing all these polygon islands here, these cubes, and it's assigning a value to those. And it's using the variation texture, it will assign a color to that value. So I've got even though these are all the same, even though these are all the same in the same texture layer, I can really easily randomize the colors there. And I can also do a stepped value on the graph if you just want them just to get these colors here, or I can interpolate in between and we'll get all these little in-between colors on these guys. So you can kind of see the light bulbs going off of people's heads now, because you can use that for leaves on a tree, because each leaf is a texture island. Or if you have a whole bunch of rocks or something in one layer, you can use the variation texture to apply different colors or diffuse values or whatever to those rocks. So, and it works with items too. So I can go back and let's say we just keep that and we just invert that and kill everything, and I just have this one item here. If you press F2, you'll get the modeling tab. So if we'll just center that guy. If I am in item mode and I do the duplicate and do a scatter clone, and now I'm doing it with items, so I have a whole bunch of different items here, right? Let me just do more. And I can go in and all these items still have the same, they carried that texture material tag with it, so they'll still have the cube material tag. If I took my variation texture here and switch that over to item, you'll see now I've got this gradient going through. It's giving each item a value, and it's applying a color to that value in the shader tree. So you can use it with items. So if you have a whole bunch of different, multiple items, whether it's maybe shards from a dynamic simulation or whatever, you can apply different, diffuse color values, or any of these channel effects can be put on each one of these items using variation texture. So super powerful, super awesome. You can do anything. You could vary bump amount or something like that per item or per polygon island. It'll also work with particles. So if let me just kill all these guys, and I just have my original cube here. If I go over to setup and just do a real quick particle simulation, I'll just do a radial emitter and bump up this a little bit maybe. So there's my radial emitter, right? And if I just do a simulation, it'll pretty much calculate that instantly and scrub through. There's my particle simulation. And so if I use like a replicator, we'll just go back and use my cube again for the prototype and the point source, the particle simulation. There's my cubes going out. If I go over here, I can change, what's cool is actually the variation texture will still work in item mode even with a replicator, but you can set that to particle mode as well and get each particle has its own ID that's passed on to that cube being replicated there, and the variation texture gives one of the gradient colors, to those cubes in the particle simulation. So pretty cool, really powerful texture. Sort of, like I said, I think it kind of flew under the radar because there's so many other features, but this thing is great. So, what I should do is go over to layout and bring in that tree. Organic plants. Is there a tree? Trees, that's what I want. Give me this guy. So here we've got, let me hide this other stuff. Boom, 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 boom. So there's my tree and all my leaves, but again, these leaves are polygon islands, right? So under, you don't need that. Well, here, let's witness as I use the power of the shader tree to just drag this over to the leaves. And then I set this to mesh part. And there's our leaves, right? So, you can do something. You could blend that if you want with the leaf color. I could just do, well, we can do a couple ways. We can do a multiply. We have some colored leaves there and drop that down to 50%. But, there's some variation on the leaves. That easy. So, super powerful feature. I don't know if anybody even noticed it. I don't think it was in the feature tour, but I love it. It's awesome. Gregory put that in there specifically. Greg Duquesne. He doesn't like to be called Gregory any more than me. Put that in there right at, sort of snuck it in there, and we love it. So, check it out.